It was supposed to be a quiet evening. Rain tapped gently on the metal roof of his shelter as Sergeant Darren pulled off his boots. After years of fighting across alien front lines, he had finally found a place far from the blood and noise. A small outpost on the edge of no man's space, with no neighbors, no orders, and no surprises. But that peace broke with a knock. Not on the door, on his mind. A strange sensation crawled up his spine. His military instincts kicked in as he grabbed his plasma sidearm and stepped toward the entrance. He opened it slowly. She stood there, soaked from head to toe, trembling. In the rain. Her orange fur clung tightly to her small frame. Her tail, fluffy and twitching nervously, was the only thing not weighed down by the downpour. Her hands were wrapped tightly around a thin blanket, barely more than a rag. Her eyes, large and glowing faintly in the darkness, locked onto his. With a quiet desperation, she didn't speak, just stared. Her ears twitched, and she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Darren didn't move for a moment. She wasn't human, that was clear. The feline ears, the fur, the tail, the soft glow from her eyes. But she also didn't feel like a threat. She looked like a stray abandoned, forgotten, maybe even hunted. He lowered his weapon and stepped aside. "Get in before you freeze," he said. She moved quickly, as if afraid he might change his mind. Inside, she shivered as he handed her a warm towel and a protein bar. She took it with shaking hands, still silent. Her fingers were singed, and her legs had bruises, clear signs of fleeing some kind of violence. Darren didn't ask questions. Not yet. He'd seen too many refugees during the war. He knew the look of someone who had run for too long. The power flickered as he got the heater running. She huddled near it like a frightened kitten. Slowly, she began nibbling at the food. He observed her quietly. Every now and then, her eyes would glance at him like she didn't understand why he hadn't thrown her out. After a while, she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, barely more than a whisper. "I didn't mean to come here. I didn't know where else to go." Darren nodded. "You're safe now," he said. That night, she slept on the cot, wrapped in blankets, while he stayed up near the door, gun ready, just in case. Not against her, but against whoever had made her run. In the quiet hours before dawn, distant thunder echoed through the sky, not from the storm, but from orbit. Warships. Darren's eyes narrowed. This was supposed to be a demilitarized zone. If ships were moving, someone had broken the treaty. And somehow he knew whoever that girl was, whatever she had escaped from, it was just the beginning. And peace was already slipping away. Morning came with a strange quiet. The storm had passed, but the tension remained. Darren stood at the edge of the clearing near his outpost, binoculars in hand, scanning the sky. He didn't spot any warships, but the humming in the atmosphere wasn't natural. Something had disturbed the peace overhead. He could feel it in his bones. Inside, the feline girl stirred awake. Her ears twitched first, then her golden eyes blinked open. She looked disoriented, as if unsure whether she had dreamed the night before. When she saw Darren standing guard outside, she curled up tighter in the blanket, hugging it like a shield. He stepped in quietly. She flinched when he opened the door, but didn't run. That was progress. "I made something warm," he said, holding out a cup of broth. She looked at it, sniffed, then hesitantly took it. Her hands still trembled. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. Then, softly, she answered, "Nari." It was a name he hadn't heard before. Not from any registered species, not from any alliance files. He sat across from her on a crate. "You're not from this sector, are you?" Nyari shook her head slowly. "I ran. They took everything. My family, my home. They said I was defective." Darren frowned. "Defective?" Nyari nodded. "My kind is created, not born, engineered, designed to serve. But I fought back, so they marked me broken." Her voice was steady now, like she had repeated this to herself many times. Darren clenched his fists. So they abandoned you. They hunted me, she corrected. I escaped the lab during the last bombing. I've been running since. Darren looked away. The wars he had fought in had created monsters on both sides. But hearing her story, seeing the scars on her hands, made him realize just how deep the cruelty went. She was someone's creation, but she was still alive, still scared, still trying to survive. You're not broken, he said. You're just free now. Nairi's ears perked up at his words. She stared at him like she didn't understand what that meant. But something in her gaze softened. Outside, a sharp screech echoed through the sky. Darren grabbed his scope and bolted out the door. A reconnaissance drone, small, sleek, black, zoomed across the horizon. Not Alliance, not friendly. He recognized the markings, LabCorp. He muttered. They had come looking for their property, single quotes. NWR. I stood in the doorway behind him, wrapped in the blanket. Her face paled when she saw the drone. They found me, she whispered. Darren holstered his weapon, grabbed a small control pad, and activated the shield perimeter. A faint blue glow flickered to life around the outpost. They're not taking you, he said. Not while I'm here. Nairi blinked at him, her tail curling nervously behind her. No one had ever said that to her before. In that moment, something changed. She wasn't just a stray anymore. She had someone willing to stand between her and the past. But Darren knew this was only the beginning. If LabCorp had deployed a scout, others would follow. Stronger, faster, and far less polite. And when they came, he'd have to choose stay hidden or fight again. And this time, he wouldn't be fighting for a nation. He'd be fighting for her. Nyri sat near the outpost window, wrapped in a fresh thermal blanket. Her golden eyes followed every movement Darren made as he adjusted the external defense grid. He moved with the calm of someone who had done this 100 times before. She admired that. No panic, no yelling. Just silent preparation. Darren checked the energy cells, counting silently. Only 3 full charges left for the turret grid. Enough. For one real fight, maybe 2, if he played it smart. He looked at her again. She hadn't said a word in over an hour. Nairi, he said quietly, do you still have the tracker on you? She didn't speak. Instead, she slowly lifted the blanket from her neck and turned around. Beneath the soft fur at the base of her skull was a faint metallic ring, small, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. Embedded into her skin, Darren stepped closer and inspected it. His jaw tightened. They fused it into your spine, he said. That's why the drone found you so fast. Nairi nodded. It hurts when I get too far from their zones. It burns. Darren gritted his teeth. He had dismantled dozens of enemy trackers before. But this one was different. It was hybrid tech, biological and synthetic, designed to kill if tampered with. He'd seen what happened to others who tried to remove such implants on the battlefield. It was never clean, but Nairi didn't flinch. Her voice was barely above a whisper. If it kills me, that's fine. Just take it out. He stared at her. There was no fear in her eyes. Only pain and something deeper, resignation. Like she had already accepted she was meant to suffer. No, Darren said. Not like this. He pulled open an old equipment locker and started digging through boxes. After a few minutes, he found what he needed: an old medical drone, busted but salvageable. He powered it up and interfaced it with his military datapad. It buzzed weakly but still worked. I'm going to override the neural lock, he explained. If I'm wrong, it could trigger the failsafe. Nairi simply nodded. Then at least I'll die free. Darren looked into her eyes, then began. The drone hovered above her neck, scanning the device. Lights blinked rapidly as he rewrote the code. Sweat gathered on his forehead. One wrong command could send a lethal jolt straight to her spine. Seconds passed. then a sharp beeping noise. The ring flashed red. NYAR. I arched back, groaning in pain, but didn't scream. Her claws dug into the floor. The drone kept working. Then silence. The light on the implant blinked green, then shut off. The small ring loosened and fell from her neck like a dead weight. Darren caught it and crushed it under his boot. Nyari slumped forward, breathing hard, but still alive. He knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. It's over, you're free. Tears welled in her eyes. Not from pain but from disbelief. Outside, the security sensors flickered. A new alert. Darren turned toward the screen. Incoming signal. Unidentified transport ship. Speed. High. They were coming. Nyari wiped her tears and stood. For the first time, she didn't look like a frightened girl. She looked ready, and Darren realized she wasn't just running anymore. She was preparing to fight. The sky had shifted. Darren could feel it in the air, the pressure, the unnatural silence before impact. He stood at the edge of his outpost, visor lowered, watching a dark dot grow larger in the sky. The incoming ship had no markings, no transponder, no response to hails. That only meant one thing. LabCorp had sent retrieval hunters out inside. Nairani finished securing the thermal armor Darren had offered her. It was old military gear, slightly oversized for her smaller feline frame, but it did the job. Her ears twitched beneath the hood, her tail curling behind her legs. She looked at herself in the mirror for a moment, then looked away. She didn't recognize the reflection yet. They'll expect you to hide, Darren said, checking the charge on his rifle. I'm done hiding, Nyari answered, stepping out beside him. Her voice was steady now, clear. She wasn't trembling anymore. The ship landed with a dull thud in the clearing. It was a sleek black transport with blinking red lights and a humming undercurrent of power. The back hatch hissed and lowered slowly. 3 figures stepped out. They weren't soldiers. They were worse. Retrievers. They wore form-fitting biosuits and carried weapons that looked more like surgical tools than rifles. Their faces were hidden behind reflective masks, each one marked with an ID code. Darren recognized one of them, Unit 9A, known for bringing in rogue experiments alive or dead. Whichever was easier. You have something that belongs to us, the one in the middle said, his voice flat, artificial. Darren raised his rifle. She belongs to no one. The retrievers didn't react to his weapon. They simply spread out, slow and confident. The lead agent activated a wrist beacon, sending out a pulse. Nairi staggered for a moment, gripping her head. They're trying to reactivate the neural lock, Darren said. But you destroyed it, she gasped. They always have a backup signal. We have to jam it. He handed her a device, a jammer node, and pointed to the ridge behind the outpost. Get it up there. I'll hold them off. Nyari hesitated for only a second, then ran. The retrievers moved fast. Darren fired first, blasting one of them off. Balance. The others split and returned fire with stun bolts that scorched the ground around him. He ducked behind a crate, laying down suppressive fire to slow them. I climbed the rocky hill. The jammer tucked tightly in her arm. She slid. Scrambled, cut her hands but kept going. Her ears rang from the echoing blasts behind her. She reached the top, slammed the jammer into the ground, and activated it. A high-pitched frequency screamed across the air. Below, the retrievers froze for a moment. The lead one's mask cracked. Slightly at the edge, Darren took the chance. One shot, right in the chest. The lead agent dropped. The others hesitated, then retreated, dragging their fallen comrade back toward the ship. They didn't expect resistance. They definitely didn't expect the girl to fight back. Darren ran up to Nairi, who was gasping for air but smiling through the pain. You did it, he said. They're not done, she replied, still catching her breath. That was just the first wave. Darren looked back toward the sky. She was right. And now that she had fought back, LabCorp would send worse, but Nyari had made a choice. She was no longer a runaway. She was a warrior now. Asterisk. The sun had barely risen when Nyari woke from a short, uneasy rest. She sat near the fire pit, watching the flames flicker as Darren checked supplies inside. Her claws were scratched, her tail bandaged, but her eyes had changed. They held purpose now, not just pain. Darren emerged with a datapad and placed it beside her. "Intel from the drone wreckage," he said. "They weren't just here to retrieve you. They're preparing a sweep of the entire region. Looks like they've marked this place for cleansing." Nyari's breath caught. "Cleansing means ... They're going to erase the evidence. Burn everything, including you and me." She looked down, silent. "But they've made a mistake," Darren continued. "I sent a distress signal to the old rebel channels. If anyone still listens, someone might respond." Nyari stared at the datapad. It showed her profile, her designation, her barcode. She scrolled through the files in silence. Images of others. Like her, some failed, some terminated, others never even named. Just serial numbers. "They treated us like tools," she said softly. "We had no names, no voices." "You have a voice now," Darren said. "Nwar." I turned to him, something stirring inside her. "Then let's make them hear it." He handed her a mic connector. "We'll broadcast from the ridge. Full wave. If LabCorp is listening, we'll make sure the galaxy hears us too." They hiked up the hill together, past the jammer, to the signal node Darren had rigged from scraps. Nyari stood before it, hesitating. Then she spoke. "This is Subject N13, she began. "No, my name is Nyari." Her voice trembled at first, but then grew stronger. "I was made in the lab. I was engineered to obey, but I ran, I escaped. I found a mana-human who gave me warmth, not orders. Who saw me as someone, not something." She took a breath. "I am not property. I am not broken, and I'm not the only one. To anyone out there who hears this ... I am alive. And I will not go quietly." Darren stood beside her, proud but silent. Back at the outpost, the signal beacon flashed. Message broadcast. System-wide. Far away. On orbital relays, on backwater rebel comes, and even in quiet corners of Alliance space. Her voice echoed, but so did something else. An alert appeared on Darren's datapad. Signal detected. Retrieval Alpha en route. 18 minutes. Nyari read it, then looked at Darren. "They're coming," he nodded. "Then we fight. For real this time." Together, they headed down the hill. This wouldn't be survival. It would be resistance. And this time, the whole galaxy would see. Asterisk wind howled through the canyon as Darren finished placing the final charge beneath the southern ridge. His fingers moved fast, years of combat experience guiding each step. He didn't look nervous, but Nyari could feel the weight behind his silence. They both knew this could be their last stand. She crouched nearby, adjusting the pulse rifle Darren had customized for her. It was heavy in her hands, but it felt right. For the first time, she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She was choosing to stand her ground. The sky darkened. Retrieval Alpha arrived like a storm sleek, black warships slicing through the clouds. 2 drop pods broke away, slamming into the dirt like meteors. Darren and Nyari watched from their cover as a dozen armored enforcers emerged, each one larger, faster, and colder than the last group. Nyari single quotes S4 bristled. "These aren't just retrievers," she whispered. "They're terminators." Darren nodded grimly. "They're not here to take you back. They're here to erase everything." A voice boomed from below, broadcast from the lead enforcer's helmet. "Subject N13, surrender. You will be neutralized." With minimal pain, Nyari stood. The wind tugged at her hood. Her tail flicked once. "No," she said. "I'm not yours anymore." The moment was brief. Then the world exploded. Blaster fire lit up the valley. Darren opened with precise sniper rounds, dropping the lead scout instantly. Nayari ducked, rolled, and returned fire, each shot pushing back the advancing line. The Terminators spread out, moving like shadows, ignoring wounds, focusing on her. They wanted their creation back. But she wasn't theirs. One of the soldiers reached the outer wall. Darren detonated the southern charge, blasting the slope into rubble and buying a few more seconds. But they kept coming. Inside the outpost, automated defenses kicked in. Laser turrets spun and fired in unison, forcing the attackers to retreat. Into cover, smoke filled the sky, alarms screamed. Still, Nyari fought her claws scraping the dirt, her heart burning with something she had never known before. Freedom. Then, just when the tide began to overwhelm them, the device crackled. Voice rough, static-filled, but clear. Signal received. Rebel Cell Omega responding. Reinforcements inbound. Nari looked to the sky just in time to see it, a sleek rebel fighter descending fast, followed by a trio of battered but functional skimmers. The enforcers turned, but it was too late. Rebel fighters rained down fire from above. Smoke and flame tore through the valley. The Terminators were powerful, but not prepared for a full assault. Within minutes, it was over. When silence returned, Darren lowered his rifle. Nari stood, panting. Her armor scorched, her fur singed, but her eyes shone with defiance. She looked around at the fallen attackers, at the approaching rebels who now gathered around her. One of the rebel officers stepped forward, stunned. "You're the girl from the broadcast?" Nari nodded slowly. The officer looked at her like she wasn't just a survivor, she was a symbol. Darren placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's over," he said. "Nyir." I turned to him, a small smile forming. "No," she replied. "It's just beginning." And for the first time in her life, she believed those words, because she wasn't just a lab-made girl anymore. She was free. She was seen. And she had a name that echoed across the stars.